what's got two thumbs and loves a good talky talk movie with a solid leading man performance. That's right, this guy right here. Talking about a movie called Infernal Machine, which you can see by the title below. And this is a Guy Pearce movie with Alex Pettyfer also in it. And we're going to be getting into that in a quick hot second. But of course, this is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. I like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, with a special keen interest on the lower end of the scale. It's where my heart lives, it's where it lies, and it's what I want to share with you guys. I love just putting little rhymey bits in there. Before we get into this review though, please do all those wonderful, amazing things that helps out the channel, helps me out, and just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. Do hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell. Head over to the website, www.nerdly.co.uk, and you will see all the reviews, all the podcasts, all the awesomeness that we put out on there, and the interviews, everything like that. We do loads of different things. We do lots. This one is kind of a lower to mid kind of thing. Like, we're not talking about a really low budget, but we're not talking about a massively high budget. But it didn't need a massively high budget because it has a very good story with very good dialogue, and that's what we're going to talk about. We are talking about Infernal Machine. Interesting side note, stuntman to the stars Spencer Collins was on this movie. He worked on this movie as part of the stunt crew, so that's awesome. But let's get into Infernal Machine.
This is a message for William DeKent. This is Bruce Coburn.
Mr. DeKent.
Mr. DeKent?
I'm calling in response to the letters I've received from you. I'm not sure how you found me.
But your letters constitute harassment, so please stop sending them.
You're that writer of The Infernal Machine. I remember them pulling it off the shelves because of a shooter from Knoxville.
He's the reason I never wrote a second book.
The right combination of words will make a man do just about anything.
The 17-year-old killed.
So Infernal Machine tells the story of a reclusive, kind of, unorthodox, controversial author, Bruce Cockburn, played by Guy Pearce, played wonderfully by Guy Pearce, I might add. He's out there and he's trying to keep away from everything because one of the books that he wrote inspired a mass shooting, and he's felt guilty as hell ever since then. But the guy who committed that act got obsessed with the book and just got obsessed with the story and what it meant, and then went out and did some heinous stuff. And Bruce Cockburn kind of takes a little bit of flack for that. So we're talking years later after all of that's gone on, and he's now living out in the sticks, and all of a sudden he starts receiving letters. He starts receiving letters every single day from an obsessed fan who wants to get in touch with him to talk about the book. This fan is writing in his own book and wants to get a forward from Bruce Cockburn. And then kind of what happens is this slow unraveling of Cockburn, to the point where he starts just getting drunk and starts kind of losing it a little bit, which is great. It's great to see Guy Pearce play this kind of role. But that is essentially your movie. I don't want to get too deep into it. You have this guy who's sending him letters. He's slowly losing it. At one point, he decides to go and visit the guy who read his book and got a little bit obsessed and did the heinous stuff in prison, which is a really cool couple of scenes. But I can't really talk too much else about it because it is a talky talk movie. It's a lot of dialogue. There's not a great deal of action. So with that kind of movie, the more you talk about the plot, the more you give away. So I am going to avoid spoilers, and I'm going to move straight into the cast and the crew of this movie. Starting with Guy Pearce, who is effortlessly brilliant as usual. I am a big Guy Pearce fan. I love a lot of the movies that he's done. I genuinely think Lockdown, did you ever see Lockdown, that sci-fi kind of movie with Maggie Grace and Joseph Gilgan? I genuinely like that movie. But Guy Pearce has been in many other fantastic films that I've always enjoyed him in. And in this, he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, if not all of the heavy lifting. He's pretty much the main kind of, you only really see him. And he's doing a great job of it. The dialogue that he's got to work with is excellent. He's getting to play a pissed up idiot when he wants to be, and he's getting to play a super paranoid, nervous kind of gentleman when he needs to be, and that's where Guy Pearce lives and loves, and I always enjoy seeing the man in this kind of role. Don't think he gets to play them enough, but I like it when he does them. At least he didn't turn into a dragon in this film. We also have Alice Eve, who I personally don't think I've seen since that Star Trek movie. Loved her in that Star Trek movie, though the small role that she had, but she's great in this. She plays Officer Higgins, a supposed local police officer who is determined to help Bruce figure out what's going on, who's maybe sending him all these things, and sorting out the issue, like any good police officer would. There is more to her story, but we're not going to talk about that because that's most of the fun of the movie. So I mentioned that he ends up going to the prison to meet the guy who committed the acts based off his book and sort of like become obsessed with the book. He goes to meet him, and I have to say that's actually some of my best moments in this movie. I kind of had written Alex Pettyfer off as an actor. I wasn't really feeling him in a lot of roles that he's done, a lot of movies that he's done, but in this, although he's not in it a massive great deal, he's in like 2 or 3 pivotal scenes, and he's brilliant. Like he's really foreboding and broody and kind of comes across nice and evil, like a bit of a shitheel. But I loved him. I thought he was brilliant in those scenes, and he plays it really well. And him and Guy Pearce have this nice little back and forth. Like there's a bit of chemistry going on there. I like that. So he gets a big tick from me in this movie. Jeremy Davis is another actor that I'm a really big fan of. Love seeing him in movies. Saw his name in the opening credits. Really could not wait to see him on screen. You don't get a massive great deal of him, but he's there and we love him. Like Jeremy Davis, I'll always watch a movie that he's in, and when I see that he's in a movie, it just makes me happy. So what I did and what I didn't like about Infernal Machine. There's a lot of things that I do like, and there's not a great deal that I don't like, other than the fact that at times it is a little bit slow. Like it does kind of pump the brakes quite a bit when you're kind of just getting into some action-y goodness, and then it slows that down and it pumps the brakes. But I'm a big fan of dialogue, and I'm a big fan of driving the story, and I'm a really big fan of just getting a solid performance out of a solid actor, and you get that across the board here. So while it is a little bit of a negative, the fact that it kind of slows down the pace, I can't really hold it too much against the film because I like those kind of movies. There is a lot of dialogue here. There's a lot of heavy dialogue at times. Interesting kind of plays with your mind dialogue. It makes you kind of second guess what you would do in that situation, or the situation that some of the other characters were in. It makes you want to put yourself in those shoes and wonder, what would you do? This movie looks fantastic. I mean, you're kind of out in a bit of a countryside kind of thing, but it's not hard to make those scenic views look amazing, but they do make it look fantastic for what I think was a lower end of the scale movie, like budget-wise. I don't think it had a huge budget. But this movie absolutely lives and breathes in its dialogue, in its script, in its story. And director Andrew Hunt, who also wrote this based off source material, of course, but Andrew Hunt has done a brilliant job. And this was a movie I went into with not really that high expectations, other than the fact that we had Guy Pearce there, and I know I love him. But I didn't really know anything about this movie, other than Spencer Collins spent some time working on it. So yeah, I went into it with pretty low expectations, but instantly when you start to see that there's this story in the background about this guy who committed this atrocity based off what this guy wrote, it's interesting, because that kind of thing does interest me. You know, I watch many YouTube documentaries and Netflix documentaries about these kind of scenarios. So to kind of see a movie based around this, although pretty controversial, I find that interesting, and I can actually put myself in a state of like, oh man, yeah, like I'm actually really into this. So that kind of had me going. And then the thriller aspect and the mystery aspect and the cryptic messages that he's getting, it just all adds to this really cool jigsaw that you're trying to put together before Guy Pearce does. And I guarantee you will not put it together, because we do have some twisty turny things towards the end, as you always should have in a movie like this, but you ain't gonna get it. You ain't gonna get it. Like, and that's one of the reasons that I just think Andrew Hunt has done a fantastic job as a director and as a writer. So massive props to that. I'm just going to jump into my rating of this movie now because I don't really have a great deal more to say. I think the acting's great. Everybody's great in the movie. Everybody's doing their job right. The cinematography is wonderful. The directing, I think he's done a great job. Was I a little bit upset at the slowdown of pace at times? Because I think you can slow a movie down without, pumping the brakes too hard. And there is a couple of moments where I feel like this movie did pump the brakes too hard. But then you kind of get to the end and you can sort of understand that. But it did slow it down a bit. And it sort of like pads out the runtime in a movie that I don't necessarily feel needed to pad out its runtime. I think it's a really taut thriller that didn't need to do that. But yeah, I'm going to slap a 4 out of 5 on this movie. I did want to go for that perfect 5, the padding of the runtime. I feel terrible for doing that because that is literally my only gripe to this movie, and it is a nitpick. But yeah, I think 4 out of 5 is really, really good for this movie. I think everybody should check this movie out. If you've been waiting for another Guy Pearce movie that you can really vibe on and get into the performance he's given instead of the fire he's breathing, that's an Iron Man 3 reference again. But if you can really let yourself go into the character, you will get a kick out of this movie. You will love this movie, and then when you get to the end and you get those twisty McTwists, it just pays off in a big bad way. So yes, 4 out of 5. I want to see more from Andrew Hunt. I know he's really I checked his IMDb and he's mostly done short movies before now, but this is a great kind of audition piece to show you, look, this is what I can do. This is how I'm going to move forward. Give me a little bit of money, give me some time, give me a good script, or I'll write a good script and we will go for it. So Andrew Hunt, I want to see what you do next. I'm going to be looking out for you. And I guess that's another reason that I'm dropping a 4, because I want to give you a 5, but let's see what your next movie is and hopefully we'll get there. I mean, you shouldn't really try and get my appreciation or respect or love. That's not something that I'm saying. I'm just saying your next movie may get a banger, just like this one, and we'll talk about that 5. But yeah, I'm going to go, because now I'm just rambling and making myself look like an idiot. Infernal Machine, Guy Pearce movie. I believe it is out there. You can see it now. And yeah, so I'm going to go. My name's Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk. Bit of a shorter review for you, but sometimes you just like a movie that much, you want to get in and out and make sure people see it. Watch Infernal Machine. You will not regret it. And I'm out.